We're told democracy is all about informed citizens. But what if I told you? Democracy doesn't actually need you to be informed. In fact, it thrives when most voters aren't. Sounds crazy, right? Today, on The Uncommon Sense, we're pulling back the curtain and diving into why ignorance may be the hidden engine of democratic politics. By the end, you'll see elections, politicians, and even your own vote in a whole new light. If you're new here, subscribe and hit the bell. We love the image of democracy as millions of rational citizens, weighing evidence, making thoughtful decisions. But in practice, it is often the opposite. But back in 1964, political scientist Philip Converse dropped a bombshell in his classic essay, The Nature of Belief Systems in Mass Publics. According to Converse, most citizens don't have stable, consistent political views. Instead, their opinions shift randomly, shaped by recent events, party cues, or even mood. Translation? For most voters, political beliefs are like sandcastles. They look solid until the next wave of news, gossip, or campaign ad washes them away. And here's the kicker. Democracy doesn't collapse because of this. It relies on it. A 1996 landmark study by Michael X. Deli Carpini and Scott Keeter titled What Americans Know About Politics and Why It Matters showed that Americans' political knowledge has remained shockingly low for decades. Most citizens cannot identify their representatives, explain how checks and balances work, or even name the 3 branches of government. And yet, democracy keeps humming along. Why? Because an uninformed public makes democracy easier to manage. Imagine if every single person had detailed knowledge of budgets, laws, and treaties. Debates would never end, gridlock would explode, and no policy would ever pass. Joseph Schumpeter, in his famous 1942 book titled Capitalism, Socialism, and Democracy, argued that democracy isn't about citizens ruling themselves. It's about citizens choosing between elites in simplified competitions, like picking a team, not writing the playbook. He compared elections to a marketplace, where political leaders are like entrepreneurs selling ideas and voters are consumers who buy the brand they like. And consumers, as we know, rarely read the fine print. Here's the thing. Most voters don't have the time, energy, or even the desire to dig into complicated policy proposals. The result? Many skip them or vote based on ads. Like when a soda tax proposal failed in Philadelphia after companies poured millions into scary-sounding ads. And campaign strategists know this. According to political psychologist Philip Converse, this is because many voters rely on shortcuts, like party labels, charisma, or sound bites, rather than deep issue knowledge. Campaign strategists know most voters don't read 100-page manifestos. So they use shortcuts like slogans, identities, and emotions. For example, Ronald Reagan's 1984 Morning in America ad didn't list policies. It showed happy families, sunshine, and hope. It worked as Reagan won 49 out of 50 states. And here's where psychology takes over. Anthony Downs, in his 1957 book titled An Economic Theory of Democracy, called this behavior rational ignorance. He argued it makes sense for citizens to remain uninformed because the cost of deeply learning about politics is high, and one vote almost never changes an election. Why spend hours reading policy papers when your vote counts as one in millions? So, for most people, it's rational to stay uninformed. They settle for shortcuts like party labels, endorsements, or even vibes. That's why campaigns focus on emotions, identity, and shortcuts, not policy white papers. According to George Marcus W., Russell Newman and Michael McCune in their 2000 study, Affective Intelligence and Political Judgment, emotions like fear or enthusiasm drive voter turnout more effectively than rational arguments or facts. Fear boosts loyalty. Anger boosts turnout. Hope builds movements. After September 11th, President George W. Bush's approval rating shot up to over 85%, not because people studied foreign policy overnight, but because fear rallied support. Democracy thrives not because voters are informed, but because they're predictable when they're not. Therefore, campaigns don't try to inform you. They try to move you because low-information voters respond more to identity, symbols, and feelings than to 20-page policy proposals. Politicians love uninformed voters. Why? Because slogans win easier than solutions. Complex problems like tax codes, climate change, healthcare, or foreign policy require nuance. But nuance doesn't fit in a 30-second ad. According to Brian Kaplan's 2007 study, The Myth of the Rational Voter, voters consistently hold irrational beliefs about economics and policy, yet democracy survives because these beliefs are politically useful. For example, in 2003, polls showed most Americans believed Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. That false belief, shaped by selective information, helped push the country into war. In the UK Brexit referendum, slogans like "Take Back Control" resonated more than technical debates on trade. The complexity was buried. What mattered was emotional simplicity. That's easier to pull off when voters lack detailed knowledge. A less informed public means politicians and elites can frame debates, set the agenda, and avoid being held accountable for policy details. Put bluntly, uninformed voters make democracy manageable. But here's the danger. Ignorance isn't neutral. It can distort democracy. Economist Brian Kaplan argues that uninformed citizens don't just fail to know things, they systematically hold false beliefs about economics and policy. And when millions share the same mistaken assumptions, democracies can make catastrophic decisions. In the 2008 financial crisis, many voters didn't understand how subprime mortgages or Wall Street bailouts worked. That confusion fueled populist anger on both the left and right, anger that still shapes politics today. During the Brexit referendum, slogans like £350 million a week to the NHS persuaded voters. Later, experts revealed the number was misleading, but by then the decision was made. In other words, ignorance keeps the machine running smoothly, until it doesn't. Here's the paradox. Democracies need voters, but not necessarily informed ones. Large groups of low-information voters keep the system stable. They're easier to persuade, cheaper to reach, and less likely to disrupt elite agendas. And history shows this works. Democracies can survive, even thrive, when voters are misinformed, so long as enough people show up to legitimize the process. It's less about truth and more about turnout. So are we doomed to be pawns in a rigged game? Not necessarily. The solution is not about forcing everyone to become political junkies, but about raising baseline literacy. It is about teaching people how to spot spin, fact-check claims, and understand consequences. Countries like Finland have introduced media literacy into school curriculums to fight misinformation. Early studies suggest it works because students are better at spotting fake news than their peers abroad. So, the solution is about diversifying your information. Read beyond headlines, challenge your own biases, and don't mistake emotion for evidence. The solution is about ensuring you have enough knowledge to ask tough questions, enough skepticism to resist manipulation. Because democracy doesn't collapse because of uninformed voters. It collapses when nobody cares enough to look deeper. If you made it this far, you're already breaking the cycle. If this episode gave you a new lens on democracy, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and share this with someone who still believes every voter carefully reads the manifestos. And let me know in the comments, does ignorance help or hurt democracy? Until next time, stay uncommon.